Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Lorelei Shemaya, one of the volunteers with BEPC. We have our Conscious Wellness Expo every summer, and we have it coming up on June 23rd. We're doing video interviews with our practitioners, so you have a sense of who's going to be there. We have over 100 vendors, practitioners, readers, healers, and people selling great products that will be there. We hope that you join us from 10 until 5. So I'm here chatting with Dr. Tina. So Dr. Tina, thanks for joining us. Please share a bit about your work. What is it that you're going to be sharing at the expo?
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Tina Enerjoy. I'm a holistic brain health practitioner. And the methods I use are called the emotion code and the body code. But what I do is I ask questions of the subconscious to identify the underlying causes of what we're struggling with, and I release them. And what I'll be doing at the fair is teaching people about what the subconscious knows. And so we're going to have a little game that we play. I have a little dice that we roll. And when you roll a 1, you're going to be, we get to ask one question of your subconscious. You roll 2, you get another question, etc. If you roll a 6, then you get to choose. But we'll find out all kinds of interesting things that just to give you a taste of what's possible. There's so much more. But we'll be identifying a trapped emotion or the heart wall, which I'll explain more about later, or about your sleep. We'll get information about nutrition and allergies and more. So just giving people a taste of what's possible. Your subconscious is really wise. It knows more than your doctor does about you. And so it's often fascinating. People love this experience.
Oh, it sounds great. And how is that different from what you do with people in regular sessions?
Well, it's actually a good sample of what I do in regular sessions. We're doing it more for fun at the expo, just to give people a sense of what's possible. But what I do with people in session is that, I help people with a variety of different issues in health, wealth, happiness, and relationships. And I have some specialties as well, which I can talk about in a bit. What I do is, given a problem, and say one of my specialties is in Alzheimer's. That's actually my research background. I have a PhD in neuroscience and postdoctoral in epidemiology. So my research was in Alzheimer's. And what I do, for example, with Alzheimer's, it's just one example, is that I ask a lot of different questions of the subconscious, and I can approach it from a lot of different ways. So I can ask the subconscious, what way do we need to approach it first? Do we need to approach it from a physical standpoint? Do we need to approach it from a symptom standpoint? Do we need to approach it from the risk factors or the underlying causes? Do we need to look at metaphysical reasons? Do we need to look at belief systems? So there's so many different angles that I can get at in terms of this disease. And likely I'm going to have to address all of them, but we address them one by one until the problem is gone, the problem is solved. And I would say about 90 to 95% of the time, we can completely eliminate problems. So it's a powerful and effective method. And the other thing that's really cool about it is not only are we identifying and releasing the underlying causes, but we can get at inherited effects. And that is huge. The whole concept of epigenetics is fascinating. But the work that we do with the body code is just one step ahead of science. I keep finding that the scientific evidence keeps supporting what we find with the body code. And that's why I love it. When I met it for the first time, I was like, oh my goodness, he's onto something. This is very cool and
So
exciting. So,
how did you meet it? How did you first get into doing this work? It sounds like you did related work before, but
yes and no. I went to the more traditional Western medicine route, right? I was doing neuroscience and epidemiology. Again, my research focus was Alzheimer's. And I loved research, but the academic environment was not a healthy one, not where I was at. And I was on a search for something where I could work more independently, because I kept getting stuck in these situations that were not healthy. I started off with something called emotional freedom technique. And when I learned about that, I learned about applied kinesiology or muscle testing, and found out that through that, I could find out information from the subconscious. And when I started to realize how powerful that was, somebody said to me, oh, you need to learn about the emotion code and the body code. And when I did, I was like, oh my goodness, this is it. I have found everything. I mean, because it really reflects my education, believe it or not, in epidemiology, because epidemiology is a study of disease across populations. It's all about finding that underlying cause. And instead of spending literally decades to find underlying causes, which it has to be done in Western medicine. And there's so many, especially with
Mhm.
Alzheimer's, there's so many underlying causes. Now I can go directly by asking questions of the subconscious directly to those underlying causes for each person. And so I get to find out a lot more, a lot faster in doing the work that I do. And I get so many more insights about the underlying causes than I ever would have in the field. Now, I'd love to go back if they're willing to listen to me, and they're so skeptical, it's a little hard to get their attention. But I have so many great hypotheses that I really think should be tested.
Mhm.
I'd love to get their ear and get them excited about it, because there's a lot of really interesting
Mhm.
findings I've had, both with addiction, Alzheimer's disease, and other things that I've found. But yeah, I can talk a lot about underlying causes. That's
Mhm.
one of my favorite things to do.
That's great. I was a biologist once upon a time, so I have some
Oh,
similarities that
excellent.
have
Get
arisen.
it.
It's great.
Yeah.
And are there some other specialties that you have that you want to mention before we?
Yeah, well, I've had some really amazing results with addiction.
Mm.
And when you look at addiction, especially like rehab, if you go, alcohol, for example, or drug addiction, they go into rehab and their success rate is 13%. I
Wow.
mean, that is just awful.
Horrible. Yeah.
And I can show significant differences in clients after one session. Now, I'm not going to say that it's enough, because I do recommend longer term work, but oftentimes the changes start at that very
Mhm.
first session.
Yeah.
And yes, we have to keep working together so that because addiction is all about a trigger that happens in the environment that causes that, makes people want to run to that behavior, right? So we do need to address all the triggers, and that takes more time, right? And then oftentimes there's things people are escaping from, and that takes deeper work. But it's so much more, infinitely more powerful, because we're working at the subconscious level, and most people don't know why they're getting addicted. So addictions is another thing that I have a tremendous amount of success in, and that's something that there really aren't very many effective methods out there, but we work at a whole different level with the subconscious. So that's very cool.
This is great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited that you'll be one of the vendors at the fair at the expo on June
Mhm.
23rd. So just to remind everyone again, so it's in Kent on June 23rd from 10 to 5, and it's at Kent Commons. That's 525 4th Avenue North in Kent. You can learn more about us on the web at bepcweb.org. We also have a Facebook event up, so please share. Please come see us. Thank you so much, Dr. Tina. It was great chatting with you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Orly.
You're very welcome.